Well, I am a very happy man because Sean Strickland just got the job done against Jack Hermansson in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 47, and I'm very happy about this because Sean Strickland can now deliver one more pre-fight press conference, and I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest because I know that eventually his ugly style of fighting will not work out for him against the top level fighters in the middleweight division, but he beats Jack Hermansson not very impressively, let's be real, it wasn't the best performance of his career. It was a very close fight. Jack Hermansson had some moments with the leg kicks to the inside and also some calf kicks as well. But Sean Strickland just slowly plodded his way forward, throwing jabs every now and again, and Jack Hermansson just couldn't really deal with it. And Sean Strickland got the job done over the 5 rounds. I thought he won 4 rounds to 1. There's an argument maybe that he can only win 3 rounds to 2, but in my opinion, he won round 2, 3, and 5 very clearly over Jack Hermansson. Now, Jack Hermansson, I guess, had some very good moments, but he just couldn't get that takedown that he needed in order to get himself the victory tonight. Maybe if he would have got one of those takedowns and just ended up on top at the end of some of those rounds and landed a couple of total strikes or just got the takedown in general, maybe then we'd be talking about Jack Hermansson being the victor here. But again, Sean Strickland's got great grappling. It was all a myth before this fight started, although we had seen some good grappling defense earlier in his career against guys like Kamaru Usman and some other people that had been trying to take him down. There's a reason why we never really see him getting destroyed on the ground by an opponent, even though he's fought so many good guys in his career. It's because typically he's got great takedown defense, and everyone kept talking about how amazing his ground game was. So I bought into the hype. I just thought, you know what? Everyone's talking about his grappling. I'm going to buy into it. I reckon his grappling is that good. And it was. He stuffed every single takedown of Jack Hermansson's. And when I say stuffed the takedown, he didn't just barely get out of the takedowns or Hermansson messed up the takedowns. He was so urgent in trying to get things not to the ground. I mean, he popped back up the first time in the first round where Jack Hermansson did, I believe, get a takedown for a split second, but it wasn't like a controlling takedown that would score too many points or anything like that. And Hermansson, Strickland popped right back up out of that one. I thought Hermansson might try and take his back, but Strickland got himself to the cage, broke the grip, separated, landed a couple of shots in the clinch as well. And that's what was winning the Strickland the fight. He was landing good jabs, outlanding Hermansson to the head most rounds. His leg was chewed up, but Hermansson's face was quite bad as well. I know Strickland had a nosebleed at one point, even wiped it and licked his blood in the middle of the 4th round or something like that. But Sean Strickland stuffed all of the takedowns, stayed busy in the clinch whenever he did, and that's a good thing to do. As soon as he stuffed the takedowns, he would land a couple of good punches in there, a couple of decent elbows, maybe a couple of body shots, and that would just wear down Jack Hermansson, failing all of these takedowns. And by the 5th round, you could see Hermansson was a little bit gassed out there, and Strickland was slow, but still as slow as he was in the first round, meaning that he wasn't gassing. I mean, he just plods forward and jabs people, and he's now going to be number 4 in the middleweight division. That's middleweight for you. He walks forward with capable striking defense and good grappling defense and jabs people, and it's working almost until a title shot in the middleweight division. The middleweight division is just the worst division in the UFC, in my opinion. But still, Sean Strickland gets it done over Jack Hermansson by decision, like I predicted. Finally, I get a main event correct this year. But again, very decent performance. Nothing too crazy. He even said in the post-fight interview that, wasn't my best performance. But again, he had to worry about the takedown the entire time. I believe Hermansson shot something like almost 2 times around every round, just shooting at the start of the round to try and get something going, and then I think Sean Strickland was just worried towards the end of each of those rounds that maybe Hermansson would try and get another takedown and secure the rounds of the takedowns at the end, so he didn't really want to empty until the 5th round at the end, where he pointed at the ground and had a very Sean Strickland-esque moment. I couldn't quite hear if he said, "Come on, Jack!" I hope he did. I truly hope he did say, "Come on, Jack," because it would be a perfect way to keep the trend going whenever he fights someone with the first name Jack. But as much as I like Sean Strickland, he called for a title shot, and I don't see him beating Israel Adesanya. I know it's a hot take. I understand it's an extremely, extremely hot take. I just don't really see this guy beating Israel Adesanya, because Israel Adesanya is good at striking and he can mix things up. And Sean Strickland just kind of And he does it effectively, fair play to him. I just don't see him walking forward against Israel Adesanya and landing leg kick after leg kick over and over again. And Adesanya just accepting that for 5 rounds. I don't see Sean Strickland KOing Israel Adesanya. Maybe he could try and mix in the grappling and trick Israel Adesanya with some of the grappling that he has, because if you've got the grappling defense to stuff all of Jack Hermansson's takedowns and do that well against him for 5 straight rounds in grappling departments of the fight, maybe he could turn that around and use it offensively to try and get Israel Adesanya to the mat. I know he had success on the ground against Uriah Hall, but Izzy's on roids, so he's not going to get taken down. Like, he's on roids. Blatantly, it's obvious. Like, it's tough for Sean Strickland right now, because where does he go from here? I don't like his chances against a few people, and I'm one of the biggest Sean Strickland fans, and I want him to succeed because I love the idea of the UFC staff at the top just worrying and sweating whenever Sean Strickland's in front of a microphone. I love that he brings that sort of nervousness around the UFC over what is he going to say next. Is he going to say this? Oh God, please don't say that. Oh, I beg of you, we're trying to get a sponsorship from Monster here. Can we not say this at this press conference? I just like that Sean Strickland may now end up at a pay-per-view press conference. And I'm going to say this, if he doesn't end up at a pay-per-view press conference, what are they doing? If Adesanya beats Whittaker next weekend, we can turn Israel Adesanya around on International Fight Week, maybe, and then do him versus the winner of Cannonier versus Brunson, which also happens next weekend. We have to find a way to get Sean Strickland on that card with them, just so he can be at the press conference, because he's going to be pay-per-view gold. He's going to add an extra 50k buys just by being at the press conference, talking shit to Israel Adesanya, talking shit to some others. And yeah, very good performance, good post-fight interview. He called for a title shot, but again, I don't think he's going to get it. I think the logical next step for Sean Strickland is probably going to be Paulo Costa. A couple of people in my chat when we were watching it live were saying stuff like, maybe Darren Till versus Sean Strickland, but I don't really give a fuck about that matchup. I'm sorry. Darren Till's on a losing streak. He's nowhere near worthy in any way of earning a fight against a top 5 opponent. I'm from England. I could be backing Till here and saying, yeah, Till deserves it against Strickland, but he just doesn't deserve it right now. He needs to get some wins together, and then maybe we can talk. Maybe if he beat in March, if he beats, who is he going to fight? Uriah Hall in March, and then called out Sean Strickland, then it'd be a different situation. We could maybe make that fight in the meantime. But until Darren Till gets a win, no more top 5 opponents for him. Let's go with Paulo Costa. If he wants to stay at middleweight, let's give him Sean Strickland. Maybe do it on that international pay-per-view card. And then you could have, listen to this, Israel Adesanya, if he does beat Robert Whittaker, versus the winner of Cannonier Brunson at a press conference. And also Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa at that very same press conference. Just do a roundtable interview with Israel Adesanya, Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland and see what happens. Just do a face-to-face interview between Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa and have Sean Strickland host the entire thing. I don't care what they do. We need to have these moments of promo. And Sean Strickland wins again, moves closer towards the top of the division. Had some moments in the fight. I mean, he dropped Jack Hermansson maybe at the end of round 2, but he didn't really land a clean shot. It was like a off-balance Jack Hermansson. Strickland partially lands a blow that knocks him off balance. It was enough to secure him that second round anyway, even though he might have been ahead anyway. Put him down with a decent shot whilst Hermansson was off balance. Jack Hermansson goes down. Round 2 goes to Strickland. I gave round 1 to Jack Hermansson. Landed a lot of good leg kicks, a couple of good body kicks in the fight as well. But Strickland has this aura of I don't give a fuck. You know? Like, I don't care. I'm just going to keep plodding forward with this kind of motion. And I'm going to jab your face off every time. Like, I don't see what anyone's going to do against Sean Strickland unless they have that higher level capability that a lot of the top middleweight contenders do. You've got to bring some kind of vicious power to the table, I think, to beat Sean Strickland. And even then, you might not want to miss too many times because he's going to overwhelm you. But you've got to have some pop in your shots like a Whittaker, a Paulo Costa. Marvin Vettori might be a good matchup for Sean Strickland next. I know they're friends and they don't really want to fight each other, but I am sick of the narrative. Oh, they're friends. Don't make them fight each other. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Friends should fight each other. That's the reality of the situation. They should be forced to fight each other. So maybe we can do Marvin Vettori versus Sean Strickland, but again, timing-wise, I reckon Marvin Vettori's going to be looking to turn right around, get back in there soon, at least within the next few months, to fight again. I don't see Sean Strickland turning around that quickly either, so yeah, I think Paulo Costa's the next matchup. Whenever Paulo Costa figures out his shit, we can have a nice little moment of press conference between Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa, and let the comedy ensue at that press conference, and it'll be a massive fight. Now, if I was Strickland, I actually wouldn't even want to be on a pay-per-view card. 5 rounds is Sean Strickland's friend because Jack Hermansson landed a lot of good body shots, a lot of good body kicks, a bunch of leg kicks, inside leg kicks and calf kicks, and Sean Strickland just ignored all of them and wasn't even breathing heavy towards the later rounds. In fact, he didn't even need a stall at the end of the 3rd round between rounds 3 and 4. He stood up in the centre of the cage and just wanted to get back in there because he just doesn't slow down, I guess. He doesn't put a lot of effort into his shots. He's very defensively aware, which he doesn't get much credit for. I mean, Hermansson was at some points swinging for the bleachers against Sean Strickland, winging massive haymakers, trying to catch him on the chin, but Strickland just rears back, just out of range, sticks his jab back in there, pops the head back, and then moves out of range again. Maybe throw a teep kick or something like that to help keep range even more. And again, the takedown defense was the story. Could Strickland defend the takedowns? If he can, Hermansson's probably going to gas out, and that's what happened. And can he deal with the leg kicks as well, which is something that Hermansson does so well? He can. He checked a couple of them. Hermansson, I believe, broke his foot in that fight because at one point his foot was completely red and swollen up, and he was having a bit of trouble keeping his balance. So yeah, Strickland answered all the questions we needed him to. Does he have great takedown defense? Phenomenal takedown defense. Can he deal with leg kicks? He kind of can, yeah, but against Israel Adesanya, different level of leg kicks than the grappling expert in Jack Hermansson has, let's be real. But yeah, good performance by Sean. I'm so happy he won. There's so many people that wanted to see him lose, and I don't know why. Can we just, like, root for the people that are big names and actually entertaining to listen to? I know people hate people that are entertaining and have some kind of personality nowadays. Like, you can go into the Instagram comments of, like, MMA Island or something like that, and you'll just see, can't wait for this guy to get sparked out cold. Man, I really want Hermansson to win. Why? He's boring. He talks about fishing and going to fish in Philadelphia. Like, I don't want to listen to Jack Hermansson. I want to listen to Sean Strickland labeling people as gay. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear about the fishing in Scandinavia and Philadelphia. I don't want to hear any of that. I want Sean Strickland being based AF on the microphone at full volume as many times as we can, because I know for a fact if he starts losing a couple in a row, I farted, the UFC ain't going to want to keep him around too long. Keeps winning, he gets another press conference, that's all I'm happy with, and he wins the fight again, continuing his win streak, and gets his win bonus as well, which is very good for him. I just would recommend fighting Paulo Costa next. It's a tough matchup. Maybe at middleweight he could win if he could survive the storm and, like, do good later on. I think Paulo Costa would rip him up quite easily in the early rounds if Paulo Costa could manage his weight cut effectively and get down to 185 safely. But if he tries to blow out the engine and lands too many shots or misses too many shots and Strickland's still there by the end of round 2, Costa does slow down a little bit more at middleweight than he does at 205. So I could maybe see Strickland coming back in the later rounds. That's the matchup I want to see, though. Strickland versus Costa. Perfect matchup, in my opinion. Let's get it going. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And for Jack Hermansson, I don't know what he does. He's going to have to wait for someone to lose and then sort of find his way back in that way. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe he turns around quick and fights Darren Till. That was scheduled before, but we'll see what happens with him. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.